Hello! Welcome to Comparing Fractions and Mixed Numbers. I know it's your favorite thing to do. Mine too. So remember, part of math is just having a positive attitude. So that's half the battle. Okay, so here we go. When we compare fractions, we need them to look similar in order to compare. So let's just look at these cute little puppy and kitten over here. So I can't just compare a puppy with a kitten. I have to make it a common name. So what would be some names that we could call these? We could call them their cute little animals. We could call them our cute little pets. We could probably just call them pets. We wouldn't have to add all the cutes in there. But we couldn't just say cat and dog. We would want to make one name that is in common. So let's just look at these fractions over here. 1/4 and 2/5. We want to compare and see which one is bigger. So the 4 right now and the 5, they don't have the same name. So we need to make them have the same name. So one of the ways that we do that is we use our least common denominator to compare the two fractions. So let me just write real quick. I'm just going to put the denominators 4 and 5. Okay. And we have, so remember when we're finding our multiples, our freebie is 1. So we multiply by 1 to get 4. And then we multiply by 2 to get 8. I multiply by 3 to get 12. I multiply by 4 to get 16. And then I multiply it by 5 to get 20. And I know some of you are out there saying, I know it's 20, I know it's 20, but I'm just showing you the process. Okay, so then I go 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 3 is 15. And then 5 times 4 is 20. As soon as we get a number that is in common, hence the word common, we know that we're done. And so our common denominator is going to be 20. So here are our two fractions. So the first thing I want to do is make them to have the denominator of 20. So they have the same name. So I look at this fraction and I say, how does a 4 turn into a 20? Oh, multiply it by 5. And whatever I do at the bottom, I have to do the same to the top. So multiply 1 times 5 gives me 5. And then I look and say, how does a 5 turn into a 20? Yep, multiply it by 4, and then multiply the same to the numerator, and get an 8. So then now we can just compare. We don't have to really worry about the denominators anymore. We can just compare and see that our numerator 8 is bigger than our numerator 5. So up here, I'm going to write the alligator. Make him a big mouth because he's hungry. Is going to go open to the 2/5. So that 2/5 is greater, or the way we could read it is 1/4 is less than 2/5. So just to remind you as well that the least common denominator is what we call the least common multiple. We just put that fancy word denominator in there because we're using it with fractions. So let's use this example where we have a mixed number and a fraction. So one of the ways to solve this is to go ahead and change any mixed number to an improper fraction. So let's look at this mixed number right here. So I'm going to go ahead and use my mad face and make an arrow. And then I put a multiplication and addition. And I know you're like, oh, that doesn't look like a mad face. But tilt your head to the left and it should work. So here we go. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 plus 1 is 10. So that's going to be 10 third, and I'm comparing it with 16 fifths. Remember, I'm trying to figure out which one is greater. So again, I have to find my least common denominator. So I'm just going to write out the 3 and the 5. And I get my freebie. I'm like, yay, we get a freebie. Times 1. That's 3. That's 5. Go ahead and just focus on the 3 real quick. So 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times 5 is 15. And I know you're already saying, I already know it's 15. Calm down. 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 3 is 15. And there you go. You're right. As soon as we get something that's in common, hence the word common, we can stop. So I want to rewrite my fractions. And so now here are my fractions up here. So 10/3 needs to have a denominator, of, not quite sure why that's not working, there we go. And 16/5 needs to have a denominator of 15 as well. So here we go. When we ask ourselves, how does a 3 turn into a 15? Yay, multiply it by 5. Whatever I do at the bottom, I have to do the same to the top. 3 times 5 is 15. 10 times 5 is 50. Am I doing this right, Miss Peterson? And here we go. 5 times 15 is 3. 5 times 3 is 15. That's what I meant to say. And then 16 times 3. And I could go ahead and do this old school over here, but I want to use that mental math with a distributive property to try to help us out. So here we go. In my mind, I have a 16 and I'm multiplying it by 3. I break my 16 into 6 and 10. 6 times 3 is 18, so I put that 18 off to the side. 3 times 10 is 30. So now I'm going to combine 30 and 18 and get 48. So now I don't have to worry about my my denominators. I can just compare my numerators. So I'm going to go back to my original fractions. And it actually would be that mixed number, but we'll just leave it as the 10/3 and 16 over 5. And I want to see which one would be bigger. So here I have 50 and 48. Yep, I can see the 50 is bigger. So the alligator is going to open up this way. So 10/3 is going to be bigger than 16/5. Miss Peterson's going to show you some additional examples.